Can we please give them a round of applause? Thank you very much to the SAPS brass band. Distinguished guest, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the People of South Africa, ministers and deputy ministers, the Premier of Gauteng, Ntate Panyaza Lesufi, our mother, Mama Sophie de Brain, our freedom fighter, Ntate Meg Maharaj, all distinguished guests, Dumela. It is my singular and distinguished honor and privilege to welcome you on behalf of His Excellency President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the guests who have responded to the invite and decided to join us this morning. They include men and women who courageously led from the front in their quest to realize the destruction of the brutal apartheid system. President, they also include young people who are our nation's future. President Mandela profoundly remarked that sometimes we gather here today because 2026 marks a year of reflection, honor, and commemoration for us as South Africans. Today we look back 70 years ago when more than 20,000 women marched to this union building on the 9th of August 1956 to protest against the extension of past laws. History records that for 30 minutes, the 20,000 women stood on the steps of the amphitheater in silence, not that at the time of the march in 1956, men were already subjected to the humiliation of carrying the dreaded dompas. But it was the women who stood up and stopped their apartheid government in its oppressive tracks. We also reflect on the District 6, which became the site of one of South Africa's most brutal mass removals during apartheid. The painful forced removals, which took place 60 years ago, left many families stripped of their homes and dignity. The apartheid regime demolished District 6 to make way for a white-only suburb. More than 60,000 people were forcibly removed. 50 years ago, the young people of this country took on the brute force of the apartheid state at the great personal risk and triumphed. Their brave actions sparked a national outcry and bolstered international support for the struggle against apartheid. Their activism enabled us to live in a society where all are valued and has paved way for the current generation of young people to tackle the many pressing challenges we face as a nation today. 30 years ago, the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa was signed into law by former President Nelson Mandela on the 10th of December 1996 in Sharpeville. South Africa adopted the Constitution as its supreme law to ensure that never and never again shall this beautiful country suffer the same inhuman and unjust occurrences. We also celebrate the 25th anniversary of the democratic local government and the year of service delivery acceleration. The 2026 local government elections provide an important opportunity to highlight the role of the democratic government in bringing services closer to the community. We thank you for joining us today as we officially launch a government program titled the Milestone of Freedom. This campaign, which will be implemented under the theme Honoring the Past, Delivering the Future, seeks to encourage society to reflect on and honor and commemorate the milestone events I've mentioned. Throughout this campaign, the biggest question which all of us must respond to is how do we properly honor and commemorate those who sacrifice their life so that you and I standing here today can enjoy the freedom we have. We honor them by simply being of service to the greater society, by telling their stories, or do we honor them by not doing what we should be doing? We honor them in action, in commitment to preserve our hard-won democracy. At this point, let me remind you that at the epicenter of our struggle against democracy were artists who took upon themselves the responsibility of highlighting the plight of the oppressed African people throughout the world. It is my distinguished honor to welcome Lebo Mashile, who is going to captivate us with his poem that not only signifies the struggle that we have endured as black people of this country, as white people of this country, as Africans in particular. Her poem is titled The Alchemy of Freedom. Ms. Mashile.
Re ba Mashile ba se godisa malekane mokibane wa monesa morale ngwana wa lepula na pula ha tshabi ke matšhabatladi se rutha ka mosela ntheng ya thaba magale a se robele re matšhilwane a shibe a shilana ka la moshidi ka mosho a shila tlhogo tsa batho rena ba maswi ka magamaga e ke go maya tšhilwane. This is South Africa's story, a country that remembers the women of 1956, a country that remembers the families of District 6, a country that remembers the children of 1976, and a country that remembers the architects of our Constitution. They say this is the bottom of the continent, so let's turn the planet on its head. This is a land where bloodlines leave tracks reaching back to the beginnings of humanity, where language is a tapestry of cultures, a sublime symphony of complexity. Here, greeting is more than politeness, it is recognition of the living divine. Sawubona, Ralocha, Tobela, Absheni, Molweni, Dumela, you are welcome, Ohandet. Palette twisting gymnastics, treasures born from identity's bricks. We revel in linguistic polyrhythms, channeling lightning through tongue clicks. We speak from the earth. We sing from the deep. We create from the pressure that no eye can see. The dark belly of secrets only time can keep. Carried in precious, calloused hands. Excavated from the tunnels of this land, beneath layers of earth that remember every story of conquest and resistance, under unimaginable weight, under centuries of violence, what was once overlooked becomes the dazzlingly luminous. The hidden becomes priceless. Midnight gives birth to light. And so, a diamond is forged. The heart of courage, a gift from the fight. This is South Africa's story, a nation imbued with survival because we understand the alchemy of faith and the immortal power of pressure. Wealth is more than mineral resources and their share price on the global markets. Our truest abundance is the diamond of spirit made more radiant by each other. The universal truth that because I am, you are, that none of us exists alone. Through the horrors of inequality and oppression, we mirror the purity of each other's souls. We breathe life into each other until survival becomes song, until chaos becomes creation, until brokenness becomes one. To walk this specific earth is to experience miraculous energy. It is to witness how magic is coaxed daily out of brutality. It is to see how a nation scarred and split still creates wealth unseen. The diamond South Africa offers the world is its people. Flawed, evolving, hybrid, African, immaculate, and unbreakable. Honored guests, to walk this earth is to walk a land that knows how to turn coal into diamonds, sorrow into song, and survival into the most immaculate gems you have ever encountered. Our footprints straddle oceans. Our wealth fuels the planet. We walk with diamonds on the soles of our shoes.
Another round of applause. We thank you for your captivating words. We will forever be indebted to the creative industry for the indelible mark that this industry has left in the life of our people and the role that it has played in the struggle for freedom. At this point, I'm going to request that you spare 5 minutes of your time to listen to a narration video of freedom, which has been brought to us by GCIS. At this point, I'd like to request GCIS to flight the video.
Mzansi's freedom was not given. Mzansi's freedom was not for youth participation in the economic and labor market. The next milestone of freedom will not be inherited. It will be created by the ideas, actions, and voices of today's youth.
Experience it. I can't, explain to you. You needed to be there to, the smells, when it's Eid. When it was Eid, the smells of the food of the various Muslim neighbors, it was exciting. Christmas times, the smells of the food of the neighbors, and it was one close-knit community.
Relationships that we had with each other, the fact that it was so deep-rooted. It was a value system that it's not really carried through from generation to generation. And those value systems is essentially what we are still holding on to.
The forced removals was a very, very sad situation. Not only myself or my parents, but the whole community of District 6 went through.
When the GG cars came, right, and they started distributing these notices, so the notices was, It was like an execution letter.
I remember seeing this car. I was playing outside. I was a little boy. Then I saw this, Volkswagen Beetle. I remember it's a white one. Pulled up. 2 guys got out. They were dressed in safari suits. I think that was the uniform of the government at the time. And they had this clipboard, and they came into the house. And my father greeted them. They were not very, hospitable. And I could see the angst and the anxiety on my father's face, because he knew what was coming, because our neighbors previously had. So he was dreading this day. And then they gave him, and I can't remember the exact words, but I could sense the aggression in the tone of their voice. And my father was a very proud man, and then he sold the shag. And I think that, to me, was very, how can I say, symbolic of a broken person, man. Because my father, you could see, he just resigned at the time, And then he went to sit on the staircase and he started sobbing. And my mom came to him and the two of
Why are you bringing us here? This is just sand dunes. We don't see the ocean. We don't see the mountain. Then my dad, I remember him turning his back to us and he just started crying.
The new government informed the people that this was going to be a project that people could return to because of the forced removals. And my mother was excited. She applied in 1990, if I'm not mistaken, 94, 95. I asked her one day, Mom, whatever happened? She was living in an old age home in town. And I asked her, Mom, whatever happened to your claim? She gave me the letter. And she said, I don't know, but and then the next day I phoned land claims, and this lady said, Mr. Alexander, do you know how long we're looking for your mother? To tell her that she's one of the claimants that is going to be. I remember the excitement on her face, the joy, the happiness. Well, the whole family was, And that was a process, meetings and more meetings. Still we came to the point where we now were told, you must collect your keys in District 6 to move into your home.
So we went home, we were pumped, we were heated up. Going out of the school on the 15th. We got home to our different homes, we prepared the placards. The following day, coming to school, it was very cold. I remember my parents calling me, come back, you forgot your blazer. No, we didn't put on blazers and stuff. But we came to school, we were standing here by the assembly. The teachers, we took them by surprise. Because when they were supposed to address us and then we'd go to those religious songs and one of the students, instead, we waited until they were assembled. And all of us, as students. And then our lead singer, I just remember the name Tandi, she started. There was no assembly that day. She started the national anthem song. Then as soon as she said Nkosi Sigelela, we lift up our placards. It was a surprise for the teachers and everyone. And then we were marching with that. After we said amen, then we were singing the other songs, Senzenina, and all those songs.
I could hear that whole music coming down the road. So, waited as they approached. They were chanting, Sikalela, Sikalela, Izwele, Elatatwa. And then they would change and sing, Senzenina, 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 Senzenina. As they walked past me, or as they marched past me, I carried my baby here. I had a baby. He was 2 years old, and they were chanting like that, and I kept going, power, black power, black power, black power. You know, it was during the days I had been exposed to SASO and Black People's Convention at the Christian Institute, because they had offices there. That's where I used to work before. So I had mingled a lot with the main guys, Steve Biko, Unkgopotse Tiro, Pokwe Mafuna, all these guys, I had mingled with them. So we used to chant Black Power a lot in Braamfontein. So they went past, and I went back home, get ready to go to work, because I'm employed at Dube Library, just up the road in Dube. So I went to work, started working. Everything was okay. Library opened at 10. So everything went well until suddenly there was a noise outside. And as I went outside to check what the problem was, I see kids running, and they say, the Boers and the police are shooting at us.
So on the morning of the 16th of June, 1976, I just got up early, because I was staying at Baragwanath at the time, and just after 8 o'clock, we were called to go to the casualty, and as we weren't aware what was happening. At the time of this happening, people started pouring into the casualty for the entire day, late that night, and the next 3 days as well. But what sticks in my mind is that they came in cars, on the back of trucks, very few ambulances, because the ambulances weren't prepared for what was going to happen. You can only explain what happened if you were there and felt the pain and the suffering of the students that were brought in, the young people. Now, normally in a casualty, you'd prioritize which patients you see first and which ones you see later. We call it the triage system. But that day and the subsequent days, the triage system had to be done so quickly, because patients came in with, students came in with multiple gunshot wounds and other blunt trauma wounds, which obviously were inflicted by the authorities in control. I know we all know the story of Hector Peterson, how that photograph of him being carried by a friend and his sister next door to him went viral all over the world. But he was just representative of what happened, what I saw at Baragwanath that day, of hundreds. The figures differ, but I think about 500 unofficially died in those days, and also thousands got injured, and that still excludes the psychological trauma they went through and their families. So it was a day of trauma, but also a day that started a healing process, when we started to see other people as humans, irrespective of color, background, status. We saw others as human beings.
This is the day when South Africa is truly born.
I am an African. But we refuse to accept that our Africanness shall be defined by our race, our color, our gender, or our historical origins.
There was jubilation, a final constitution at last. At a stadium in Sharpeville, after 350 years of struggle, the president signed the law for our new country. Our constitution gives us the map for the way forward. On its own, it doesn't stop corruption, it doesn't build schools, homes, or hospital buildings.
Give them a round of applause. Thank you for reminding us that the march to freedom and democracy was painful and sometimes unbearable. As a generation of young leaders, we owe a great debt of gratitude to men and women who stood their ground, who lifted their hands, who summoned their courage to defeat a tyrant and brutal system of apartheid. We also wish to remind you of what Oliver Tambo, former president of the ANC, once said. He reminded us that the children of every nation are its future. A nation, a movement, a people that does not value youth and children does not deserve its future. This is what Oliver Tambo said. At this point, let me call on young people who are going to recite the preamble of the South African Constitution. May we please stand?
We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity.
We, therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this Constitution as the supreme law of the Republic, so as to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights.
Lay the foundation for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of people and every citizen is equally protected by law. Improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person, and build a nation of a democratic South Africa able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations.
May God protect our people, Nkosi Sikeleli Africa, Morena Buluka Setjhaba sa heso, God sien South Africa, God bless South Africa, Modimo Patucheta Africa, Hosi Katekisa Africa.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we remain standing. May we remain standing as we welcome to the stage His Excellency, the President of the people of South Africa, Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. President.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Program Director, thank you for this opportunity. I start off by extending my greetings to Mama Sophie de Bruyn, who is the only last living person who came up to this precinct in 1956 and who continues to bear witness to what happened on that day when 20,000 of our mothers, braving the cold wind that was blowing as it was August here in the Highveld, and also not fearing the bullets that could be opened as from gunfire as they attacked, they marched onto the citadel of apartheid power. Till today, it's very difficult to have that imagery in one's head that 20,000 of our mothers from all over the country had decided to march to this place. And we must continue to dip our heads in honor and awe in what they did and the sacrifice they made in their various activities to have us free today. So, Ma'am Sophie, we thank you. We continue to honor you, and thank you so much indeed for being amongst us. Thank you. I also want to pay tribute, now that I see him, to my elder brother, Mek Maharaj, who is wearing a cap looking like a tsotsi. And thank him for being amongst those who have paid heavy sacrifice throughout his life, that he's still able to join us as we commemorate all these other very momentous moments in the life of our country. And ministers, deputy ministers, Minister Nchabeni, minister in the presidency, is responsible for this, and other ministers, and indeed our premier here in Gauteng, our mayors, and leaders of various formations and organizations who have joined us to memorialize these very important milestones of our march to freedom and democracy, and veterans of our struggle who are here with us today. So I extend my greetings and say, Dumelang, Sanibonani, Dumelang, Kaufela, Huyemore, and good morning. It's a real honor and a privilege for me to stand before you on a day like today to launch the Milestones of Freedom program. We celebrated or commemorated, better still, June 16 at the FNB Stadium in Soweto, where for quite a while, as we all stood there, we sought to remember how June 16, a key milestone in the life of our nation, was a foundation that laid the intensification of the struggle and enabled us to be where we are today. Over the course of this year, our nation will together remember where we have come from. We will also honor those who carried us here, and we will renew the promise that we made to one another at the dawn of our democracy. It is important for us to remember not only the events of past, but also to remember those who enabled those events to unfold and to develop. In the span of a few short months, the calendar of our history brings together 4 anniversaries that, when woven together, tell a story of who we are as a people. They speak of oppression and dispossession, of courage and resistance, and of restoration and rebuilding. 70 years ago, on the 9th of August, 1956, in the very place where we are today, the 20,000 mothers of our nation from every color and creed and religion converged to demand an end to the injustice and discrimination that the apartheid system had imposed on them. They came from the cities, they came from the countryside, and they came from the factories and from the farms, many with their children strapped to their backs. And we hear stories of how women left their working place on that day, just walked out of their factories, walked out of various workplaces where they were. One that I heard of, Auntie Sophie, was how one was working as a domestic worker, and she just took off her vryskot, as we called it, put it aside, and decided to join the march. And the women of that day had decided that they are going to embark on this march in their beautiful clothes. They wanted to be seen as the beautiful ladies that they are. They came to say to the apartheid state in a single defiant voice that they would not carry the hated dompas, that they refused to carry the dompas. They stood in silence, as we have heard, for the 30 minutes. Now, I've often imagined how, standing wherever they were standing, right here in this precinct, 20,000 of them, and a number of them even wearing high heels. I was looking at the two young women who came here. They were wearing high heels, and I said to Minister Motshekga that these are students, and today's students wear high heels. I imagined those ladies standing here on these stones, wearing high heels, standing quietly, without talking, without whispering to each other, without singing, quiet for 30 minutes. And I've often said, I bet that many of us would not be able to do so and stand for 30 minutes because we are so talkative these days. But they stood here stoically and quietly for 30 minutes. That silence spoke volumes, and that silence echoed through the walls and the rooms of this building. And then they sang the words that have echoed through the decades. Watinta bafazi, watinti mbogodo. You strike the women and you strike a rock. And today we memorialize what they did by having two rocks right up there, the entrance of this place. One dug out like a calabash, a rock still, and another which grinds. And as we often receive various heads of state coming here, I meet them outside and I lead them and I get them to stop and I explain what happened here in 1956. I show them that memorial that signifies precisely what happened. And as we walk down, I get them to stand at the bottom and see the letters that have been written on these steps to show that this, in our view, is a very sacred place. Sacred because it memorializes what happened here in 1956. We pay tribute to those women who carried the thousands of petitions to the door of Prime Minister J.G. Stradom. They were Lillian Goy, Helen Joseph, Rahima Musa, and Mama Sophie de Bray. They carried thousands and thousands of them. There's a beautiful picture of all these four mothers, and a beautiful, they were all beautiful, but still a beautiful looking Sophie de Bray. She was so beautiful then. We remember the thousands whose names history did not record, but whose courage built the foundation on which our democracy stands. Now, this march was preceded by many other marches of the mothers of our nation throughout the country. In the Free State, the women of our country marched. In the Cape, in the Transvaal, as it was called, in KZN, in Natal, as we called it then, they all marched and protesting against the carrying of passes. Those women, mothers of our nation, taught us that there can be no freedom for our nation while half of our people are not free. Today, we honor those women not only with our words, but with our determination to finish the work that they began. We honor them by expressing our determination to finish the job. 60 years ago, in February 1966, the apartheid government declared District 6 in Cape Town a whites-only area under the Group Areas Act. And in the years that followed, more than 60,000 people were torn from their homes and their churches and their mosques and their shops and were scattered across the Cape Flats. They lost everything that they had. They were dispossessed. And I often invite people to imagine what it feels like when someone just arrives at your home and starts to destroy your house. And all they possibly could allow you to do is to take your clothes out, those that you will wear on your back only. And then start the process of destroying your house, demolishing it, and then sending you off to a barren area. That is what many of our people have suffered. I saw this earlier this year in Limpopo after the floods in Guyana, where I was taken to a spot where I was told that there were 16 houses here, President. All those 16 houses are no longer here. They were wiped away by the floods, and they were big, beautiful houses. And I imagined how those families felt as they came back and found and ran out, I guess, as their houses were being swept away. This is what also happened at District 6. This is not only at District 6 that it happened all over the country, in Sophia Town and many other places. Yes, this is what we remember today. The people of District 6 were not alone. Across our country over many decades, the same cruelty was unleashed upon the people, yes, of Cato Manor, Sophia Town, and countless other places whose names are written in the memories of the dispossessed. Today, as families return to their land that was stolen from them, we are reminded of our solemn responsibility to achieve redress for all the people of our land. 50 years ago, on the 16th of June 1976, the children of Soweto walked out of their classrooms with their school bags, with their books, and they walked into history. They were children who refused to be taught in the language of the oppressor. They refused to be banned on their knees by a system designed to keep them in servitude. Those children were brave, they were bold, they were courageous, they were unfearing. Their peaceful protest was answered with tear gas, with bullets, with arrest and with torture, and death. On the video, we hear that Baragwanath Hospital received thousands, and at the time, they even said 500 had died, but many more died as this unrest unfolded throughout the country. We will never forget the young people who fell that day in Soweto and the days and the years that followed across this land. The youth of 19 showed the world that a system that has been built on injustice cannot endure forever. They reminded us that young people are not only the leaders of tomorrow, they are the conscience, they are the voice, and they are the pioneers of the future. 30 years ago, on the 8th of May 1996, having endured all these hardships, having resisted the past laws, the forced removals, the injustice of Bantu education, and having fought a courageous struggle for freedom, the people of South Africa, led by the likes of Nelson Mandela, who in the 40s was also a young man, led by the likes of Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, Mama Sisulu, and many others, led this country to adopt a new democratic constitution. The youthfulness that carried them through the years and the courage that was deeply embedded in their being is what finally produced what we now call the Constitution of South Africa. The Constitution begins with the words, "We the people of South Africa," and in doing so, the Constitution reaffirms the fundamental principle that this country belongs to all who live in it, black and white, united in our diversity. Our Constitution declared that we would heal the divisions of the past, that we would establish a society that is based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights, that every person, regardless of race, regardless of gender or belief, would be equal before the law and equal in dignity. This Constitution is our inheritance from the generations of freedom fighters who came before us, who were courageous, who were principled, and it is the birthright that we hold in trust for those who will also come after us. When we remember these milestones, we do not see them as artifacts of the past. We see them as the foundations on which we build our country going forward. They are a reminder of the work that we also still need to do. There are still South Africans who go to bed hungry, still young people without work, still communities living in fear of criminals. There are still South Africans waiting for the dignity that freedom promised. We do not gather here to declare that our long walk to freedom is complete. Nelson Mandela was right when he said, our long walk to freedom continues. And he symbolized it by even saying, we cannot tarry for too long in one place because there are still hills that we've got to climb, a long journey that we've still got to undertake. Rather, we gather here to acknowledge the great progress that we have achieved together as free South Africans, and affirm our commitment to complete the task that history has bestowed on us. Since the dawn of our democracy, millions who lived in darkness now have electricity. Millions who carried water from distant rivers now have clean water flowing through taps. Together we have built millions of homes and thousands of clinics and schools. Through the provision of social grants and free basic services, we have improved the quality of life of children, of the elderly, of persons with disabilities, and of many families across our country. For the women of South Africa, we have opened doors that were once bolted shut. Women hold positions of leadership in government, in our courts, in our boardrooms, in our universities and colleges, and in many other endeavors of our national life. We have done much to advance the education of the young girl child, achieving gender parity in access to schooling and seeing female learners excelling in their great numbers in matric and in further studies. That is our achievement. We have put in place laws and programs that advance the position of women in the workplace and in the economy more broadly. We have placed the fight against gender-based violence and femicide at the center of our national agenda, because a country where women are not free is a country that is not yet free. The work is far from done, and we can say that through our collective efforts, the daughters of Lillian Goy, Helen Joseph, Rahima Musa, Sophie de Bruyn are rising. They are climbing up the ladder. They no longer have a glass ceiling. And what we should do is to allow them to climb higher and higher and higher. Those women who came up to the union buildings here climbed many stairs, and now they met up with an apartheid prime minister who ran away. Now we want many young girls to climb the stairs to know that there is no ceiling. There's no glass ceiling. They can go as high as they want to go. Wearing their high heels or not, they must keep climbing. And I want these two young women who came up here in their high heels to hear that you can climb with those high heels higher and higher and go further. For our young people, we have made school accessible to more children than ever before, with no-fee schools and daily meals for those who would otherwise learn on an empty stomach. Schooling has become much easier and accessible. Through financial aid, we have opened the gates of universities. We have opened the gates of colleges to children of workers and poor South African families. We are investing in the skills and enterprises and giving them opportunities that turn the potential of young South Africans into meaningful livelihoods. We have made progress in returning land to the original owners through our land restitution process, and we continue to undertake extensive redistribution of white-owned agricultural land to black farmers. We have given many rural dwellers security of tenure, and this we continue on an ongoing basis. Despite this progress, we work the work is still not complete. We're committed to continue until we can say with confidence that the land belongs to all who live on it and who need it. This is what the Freedom Charter has built. So the Milestones of Freedom, our program, is a commitment. It is a recommitment on our part. It calls on us to work hard and to ensure that the work that remains is work that must be done. It calls on us to grow an economy that includes everyone, not only a few. To achieve this, we are removing the obstacles to investment in our country, fixing our energy supply, rebuilding our ports and railways, and backing the small businesses and entrepreneurs who are creating jobs. An economy that is inclusive and growing, that reaches every township and village, is the surest instrument we have against poverty. An economy that creates jobs, particularly for young people, is the greatest guarantor of a secure and prosperous future. We continue to expand the pathways from classroom to workplace. We are strengthening our partnership with business, with labor, and with civil society so that no young person is left to wait year in and year out for a chance that never comes. We are intensifying the fight against poverty and hunger, protecting the most vulnerable, while creating job opportunities that allow families to stand on their feet. We are focused on the education that shapes a child's destiny. We are investing in early learning, lifting the quality of our schools and equipping our young people for the world that they will inherit. One of the areas that we committed from the dawn of our democracy was not to start focusing on early childhood development. That was an error. We have lost 30 years, but having realized it, we have now folded our sleeves to make sure that we pay more attention on early childhood development by formalizing many creches, because creches were where parents just dumped their children to play all day. We've now made budget available to formalize those creches, to train those people who run those creches, to equip them with modern knowledge so that we can infuse real learning amongst those young South Africans who so desperately need an education at an early stage. So we are focusing on that, and we want to see that increase to cover all the 7 million young children who are running around in creches, bringing them into early childhood development. That is a promise that we make, and that is an objective we will fulfill. And we are building a health system that serves all our people, ensuring that access to quality health care is never again determined by a person's ability to pay. We're working to confront crime and corruption without fear or favor, because South Africans deserve to feel safe in their homes and in their streets. We are rebuilding our police, our prosecution service, and all our law enforcement institutions. We are pursuing those who stole from the people, because money looted through corruption is money taken away from a clinic, from a classroom, from a child that we must put into an ECD. We are building a capable, ethical state, rebuilding our state from the period of state capture. and a state where public representatives and officials understand that they are there to serve the citizens of our country. We do this work in a spirit of partnership. The milestones we honor this year were made by ordinary people working together who decided that they would not rely on others to determine their fate. This is the spirit we want to rekindle. Freedom is not a monument that we visit once a year. It is a responsibility we carry with us every day. So today we issue a call to activism, a call to service, and a call to all of us to participate in the affairs of our country. This is a call to all of us, to all who would volunteer either in a school, to be a mentor to a young person, to clean a street, to grow a business, to do whatever will advance the interests of the people of South Africa. It is a call, yes, it is a call to serve on a school governing body. It is a call to report corruption, to prevent violence against women. It is a call to serve in a policing forum, to make sure that the areas that we live in are safe. It is also a call to vote in every election and to hold account those who are elected into public office. This is a call to register to vote this weekend and on the 20th and the 21st of June. If we are to honor those who came before us, those multitudes of women who walked up these stairs to confront the apartheid government, we should all of us be active participants also in the national dialogue that is taking place across the country. We must attend the public dialogues that are going to take place in our wards, in our sectors, and in our organizations. We should also add our voice to the millions of people who will be charting a new way forward for our country. This nation belongs to all of us, and it will only be able to be strong and just and as free as we are willing to make it to be so. As we launch the Milestones of Freedom, let us hold all 4 of these anniversaries in our hands at once. The women, the children, the dispossessed, and the constitution of our country that turned their dreams into a promise of a better future. We are the inheritors of their courage. We are the keepers of their dream. And we are, every one of us, the authors of what South Africa must become and will become. Let us together build the South Africa of which our forebears dared to dream, united in our diversity, equal in our dignity, and free at last. So today I also say, Nkosi sikelela i-Africa, Morena abuluke sitjhaba sa heso. God bless South Africa, God sien South Africa. Mudzimu apathuchedze Africa chipembe, hosi ukatekisa Africa. And I thank you all for being here. Thank you so much.
Round of applause. Much, President. Freedom is not a monument that we visit. Thank you, Cyril Ramaphosa for giving a comprehensive account of our journey towards democracy. Thank you for reminding us of the sacrifices of the women folk who suffered triple oppression at the hands of the apartheid regime. Class, gender, and what else? And race. Class, gender, and race. Thank you for reminding us of the gallantry of young lions. Tsietsi Mashinini, Enos Nguchani, Seth Mazibuko, Hector Zolile Peterson, and many other distinguished young freedom fighters who laid down their lives so that you and I can enjoy the fruits of our hard-won democracy. At this point, let me take this opportunity to invite cultural groups that are going to render cultural items. King of the Street Dance Group, Chochekani Magaza Group, please come and captivate us with your musical items.
Shut up, you stay lazy and listen.
A few moments later.
Thank you very much. Can we give them another round of applause? As our program draws to a close, let me call onto the stage Deputy Minister Litsike to render a vote of thanks. He will also acknowledge all the guests that have the opportunity to acknowledge.
Program Director, Deputy Minister Morolong, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, our President of the Republic of South Africa, ministers and deputy ministers present, representatives of government, business, organized labor, and civil society, youth leaders and organizations, our artists and cultural practitioners, members of the media, fellow South Africans, good morning. A vote of thanks can easily become an administrative exercise. A list of names, polite round of applause, and then lunch. But today our gratitude carries a deeper significance. Say the launch of the Milestones campaign is to acknowledge that freedom was never donated to us. Our freedom was imagined, organized, and was fought for by generations of South Africans who believed that this country could become more just, more humane, more equal than one they have inherited. Mr. President, I must say, let me start by extending a sincere word of appreciation on behalf of all South Africans for your leadership in reminding us that through your address, the theme of this campaign, honoring the past, delivering the future, contains both memory and obligation. It's asking us to look back honestly, but it also does not allow us to remain there. It invites us to celebrate the progress we have made, but it also requires us to confront the distance that remains between the promises of democracy and the daily lived experiences of many people. Program Director, the milestones we have commemorated and we will be observing this year tell one continuous South African story. The 70 years of the 20,000 women of all races that marched, which our president eloquently reflected on. The 60 years ago, District 6 was declared a whites-only area, setting in motion the destruction of homes, the forced displacement, and deliberate fracture of a vibrant community. The 50 years ago, the young people of Soweto refused an education designed to diminish their minds and restrict their future. 30 years ago, our constitution gathered the aspiration of this struggle into an intersectional democratic commitment to human dignity, equality, accountability, and the rule of law. We also reflected on the 25 years of democratic local government and the importance of service delivery acceleration. These milestones are connected to a common demand that every South African must have the right to belong, to participate, and to be heard, as well as to live with dignity. And we heard these moments are not just dated museum relics, nor are they self-awarded medals that our nation places upon itself. They are markers along a road that remains unfinished. They remind us that every generation receives freedom in an incomplete form, and it's us to carry it further. And we honor those who fought before us. We honor them through the equality of schools in Thohoyandou, through the household taps in Kabokweni, the safety of women, LGBTI persons in Lusikisiki, the opportunities available to all young people in our republic, the accessibility to all public services for persons with disabilities, vulnerable groups in municipalities, because they raise legitimate concern. The true limiters test our democratic project, as it's articulated by Utata Nelson Mandela on the occasion of the inaugural State of the Nation address for our democracy, must always be measured in the lived experiences of democracy that our people can see, feel, and touch in their daily lives. And once we reflect on these, we should know that the list is long that South Africa has achieved since 1994. If I start on that, we will not leave. Nevertheless, progress is not an argument for complacency. It is the foundation from which we must do more. The responsibility is especially important as citizens prepare once again to exercise their democratic right to vote in the forthcoming local government elections. The ballot is not a favor granted by government. It is a hard-won instrument of public power. Many of those we honor through this campaign were denied that instrument. Others were imprisoned, banished, or killed so that the future generation could possess it. So as we approach the voter registration weekend, I want to rehash what our president said. This voter registration weekend on the 20th and 21st June, we encourage all eligible South Africans, particularly the first-time and young voters, to register, verify your details, and ensure that you are correctly registered in your ward where you ordinarily reside. This is not simply an administrative act. It is an affirmation that citizens can have both the right and the responsibility to shape their communities in which they live. Democracy grows stronger when citizens participate, institutions listen, the rule of law is respected, and leaders remain close enough to the people to hear both their hopes and their impatience. So allow me, therefore, to extend our sincere appreciation to His Excellency, to the presidency team, and the government communication and information system for really coordinating this important national campaign. We thank the program director, Deputy Minister Morolong, for guiding today's proceedings with care and warmth. We thank Peli FM and all the community radio stations that carried this conversation into households, into communities throughout our country. Community radio remains one of the greatest democratic instruments of our society because it allows the nation to speak not only from the official podiums, but also in the townships, in the villages, workplaces, and ordinary homes. We thank Lebo Mashile for reminding us that poetry can reach places in our national consciousness that every language and imaginary can always reach. We thank the young people who recited the preamble of our Constitution. Hearing those words in your young voices reminds us that the Constitution is not merely an inheritance from the past. It's a living promise entrusted to the future. We thank the South African Police Service brass band, the Tsonga dance group, the Pantsula dancers for demonstrating that culture is not simply decoration around democracy. Culture is one of the ways through which a nation resembles itself, remembers itself, celebrates itself, and continues to imagine itself anew. To our sign language interpreters, Innocent Lesego and Pel Mbolekwa, thank you for ensuring that this national occasion is more accessible. Your presence affirms a simple but important principle. A national occasion must belong to the whole nation. Freedom that cannot be accessed, understood, or experienced by everyone remains incomplete. To the protocol officials, the technical crews, security personnel, communication teams, organizers, the exhibitors, and I want to invite all of you. There's exhibition just down the stairs. Experience it, support the exhibitors there, the cleaners, the caterers, and every person whose work becomes invisible once the microphone are switched on. We see you and we thank you. National occasions succeed because many hands carry them. We also thank the ministers and deputy ministers, our partners from business, organized labor, civil society, and youth organization, as well as every South African who joined us here at the Union Buildings and followed through the proceedings on community radio station and media platforms. The future cannot be delivered by government acting alone. It requires a social compact in which the state leads with integrity, community participate actively, business invest responsibly, workers contribute their experience, and civil society continues to organize, advocate, and hold power accountable. A milestone only becomes meaningful when it changes the road ahead. As the young anti-apartheid leader, Steve Bantu Biko once wrote, "In time, we shall be in a position to bestow upon South Africa the greatest gift possible, a more human face," close quote. So the human face of our democracy is found in dignity, equality, safety, and belonging of every person. And in a society that ensures freedom is not only promised in law, but experienced across all areas of human endeavor. The generation before us opened the road to freedom. Our responsibility is to widen that road, repair what remains broken, and ensure that no South African is left standing at its margin. I'm confident, Mr. President, that all of us, as we continue the unfinished work of freedom, your address has ignited gratitude in our hearts, determination in our steps, and unshakable belief in the promise and the potential of our country. The past has given us courage. The present has given us responsibility. Together, let us deliver that future. Thank you so much.